Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Freemasonry. I think that's just a term for secret societies. It's like Rosicrucians, Illuminati, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bohemian Grove, witchcraft organizations, Zionism, even the higher levels of the Vatican. The leaders of a lot of these religions, they are deceiving us. I was just emailing or commenting back to a commenter who was assuming that I was just blaming everything on the Jews. When Moses went up the mountain, after he was guiding the Hebrews out of Egypt, Moses went up to the mountain to talk to God and came down with the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments. What did some of the Hebrews, the Jews, do while he was gone? They collected all the gold, made a golden calf, and were having a demonic orgy, religious ceremony, like what they had learned in Egypt. The mystery religion, the religion of Osiris, Isis, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the US $1 bill. The symbol is the obelisk, the phallic unit. And they have one of those in most of our city squares all over the world. What is going on? Freemasonry. Satanism speaks for itself. The biblical story is about 1/3 of the angels were cast out of heaven. Apparently, and ironically, it was what they were called watchers. They were angels sent from heaven to watch over mankind and guide us and protect us. But what did they do? They were attracted to the human women and wanted to mate with them, and they created some kind of a hybrid creature called a Nephilim. And apparently the fallen angels were called Elohim. And strangely enough, in Zechariah Stitchin's material, the Anunnaki did the same thing. And the leader, Anu the leader, and Lid and Unki, the 2 sons, and the sister Narahu. Anyways, they decided, instead of having the Anunnaki citizens mine for gold on Earth, to create some kind of hybrid humans to do the mining for them. But they weren't having much luck with these hybrid beings they were creating. But then they got a brainstorm idea to mix their DNA genes with the animal human beings on planet Earth, creating some kind of hybrid creature. Some say the humans you see today, me, you. What's the truth? That's just some stuff to think about. There's some serious ongoing events happening today that are of serious concern. They've been going on for 50 years plus or minus, maybe longer. In one of the books I read, because I was watching a video on YouTube from Elena Freeland, please go look up her videos and buy her book. I don't want to do a audio book here. I'm just going to read a few pages and throw in my 2 cents. Chemtrails, HAARP, and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. You can't make this stuff up. Chemtrails, HAARP, and the full-scale spectrum dominance of Earth. Elena Freeland. And her videos are on YouTube where she's being interviewed by different interviewers. Just read the back of this book before I read what's inside, but I want to have an opening here first. It's no great secret anymore. In the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, our government conducted secret, large-scale biological and chemical aerial spraying in programs like Operation Large Area Coverage, Operation Dew, and Project 112. You can look them up on the internet. And when you watch my videos or even other people's videos, it's nice to have a notebook and take notes and go look up things. This stuff is serious. I think we people on planet Earth are under attack right now by the elites who control our planet and maybe in cahoots with some kind of fallen angel, watcher, archon, gray alien, reptilian beings in and out of this dimension. It's quite a curious subject to talk about. Today, chemtrails and ionosphere heaters, like the High Frequency Active Aurora Project, HAARP, are part of the weather warfare in which planet Earth becomes a battle space beset by military doctrine of full spectrum dominance. So if you pay attention to the news, or even movies, you gotta know that the word globalism is popular. And if you really pay attention, you have to understand, and you've taken any courses, even in community college, psychology 101, 102, and understand a little bit how the brain works. You know when they flash things out there, whether it's when you're turning the page of a magazine or looking at a billboard, advertising. You know, I know, we all know, advertising works. Now, if you use it for sinister purposes, you can call it mind control. Just a little bit at a time. And I think they've been doing it a long time. So how far away are we humans from actual normal thinking? What is normal anymore? Although Elena Freeland sifts through the confusion surrounding chemtrails versus contrails and how extreme weather is being geoengineered to enrich disaster capitalists, so I suspect there's a lot of money in it when they create a catastrophe. Earthquakes, plagues, weather, fires, wars. They've been making money at this for a long time. Now, not too many people with any knowledge at all can argue with that. Intimidating nations, a destructive deconstruction of Bernard Ushland's HAARP patent points to other covert agendas, such as a global smart grid and the 5G networks coming online soon with the frequencies in the gigahertz range. We'll be talking about that. What is the gigahertz range? How wide are those radio frequencies? As thick as my hair or a cell in my body? What? The author also examines Morgellons disease. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. A blood infestation by biological, non-biological hybrid structures that are piggybacked in chemicals for which its victims are dismissed as paranoids suffering from delusional parasitis. So that's funny. They see these sores on their arms and their legs and their faces, and they're told it's just delusional parasitis. Let's see if there's a picture here. So you go to see a doctor, and you see something like this on your arm. And you have them all over your body. I don't see any more pictures, but you can look up Morgellons on your computer and see plenty of pictures. It's another X-ray, I guess, of somebody's arm, microscopic photograph. So when I started this video, I talked about these watchers, these angels, who were supposed to watch over mankind from the world wherever God is, whatever God is. I'm not trying to be a preacher here. But apparently this other world does exist. We are spiritual beings in these biological bodies, whether people want to admit it or not. There's plenty of evidence out there. Everything from remote viewing, people leaving their bodies, channeling material from entities from the other side, the spiritual world. Fallen angels, even gray aliens, abductees have said, pop into existence or out of existence or walk through a wall. So I think we are all spiritual beings, and I think if we all recognize that is our real self, that might help us in understanding what's going on in the world. So anyways, even with the Anunnaki mating with humans or creating humans through genetic engineering, and now with these chemicals they're dumping in the sky and radio frequencies, it seems like somebody is re-engineering we the people again. Even in Barbara Marciniak's books, Bringers of the Dawn, the Palladians said that was the case. So much material out there. This is series 180. So that means I've got at least 180 books, almost 200, because some of these authors have more than one book. And over 600 hours of material, 4 years of making videos. So I think I can say with some confidence, there is this spiritual other world. So let's look at a couple books before I start reading from this book. I made a video on this book or two. Series number 93. Carlos Castaneda, A Separate Reality. So here's Carlos Castaneda from California. Goes down to Mexico, spends some time with a Mexican shaman for a couple years, taking peyote, the drugs, doing these rituals, going into meditation, leaving their bodies, and seeing what's on the other side. Don't believe me? Go watch the video. Go get the book. Like I said, this is series 180. So I got a lot of books I've gone over. A couple hundred. And I was reading books and studying this almost 10 years before I started making videos. So 2018, I'll be going on my 14th year, consistently researching every day, every week, every month, every year. Focus, focus. I remember doing this video, series number 37, Night Siege. So during 1987, was it, and 88, all over Connecticut, Massachusetts, Upper New York, people were seeing gigantic triangular shaped ships in the sky, even stopping and hovering. Apparently, recently there was a press release that the government acknowledged these things. I think I printed something out here. Yeah, they acknowledged that they had anti-gravity craft recently. I'll have to get that document. Another one here I was looking at this morning was the brain-ternet. Scientists connect a human brain to the internet. So here they are dumping these strontium, barium, aluminum, dried blood, and other chemicals or biologicals into the sky. And of course, gravity would cause the stuff to fall. And then it gets in our bodies. And apparently, according to the material I'm going to go over, all of us, to some degree, have these created growths inside of us, in our bloodstream. Some people are affected by it more severe than others, as with a lot of things, colds, flus, measles. Some people just react more than others. So apparently we are being polluted with this stuff, chemical, biological, electromagnetic, metal organisms. That should be concerning to anybody. That should be kind of freaking us out. Why would they be doing that? Why would they be hooking up computers to brains? Why would they be doing all this mind control? So anyways, you can go look this up. There's plenty of pages when I did the research after watching a video today. I was watching William Mont, another one of his videos. He's pretty popular. So there's 5,470,000 results on this brain and that scientists connect the human brain. Another thing I've been watching lately, something new. I thought I knew a lot, but I keep finding new stuff. Stranger at the Pentagon. Apparently there was this being, Valiant Thor, back when Eisenhower was president, who came to planet Earth, said he was from Venus, and wanted to meet with the president. Anyways, this book here, if you can find the book, Stranger at the Pentagon. And Frank Stranges, was the author of the book. So I've been watching some of his videos you can watch on the internet. So I'm always finding new stuff. That's kind of boggles the mind. Another book I went over before is this book by Jerry Smith called HAARP. There's a picture of the HAARP antenna array in Alaska, and you can see it's like 40 acres of antennas, transmitters, maybe receivers. Anyways, that's Nikola Tesla's version there, the one he built in New York. So there's plenty of books out there telling us that between the electromagnetic HAARP transmissions and the chemtrailing, they are geoengineering or messing with Mother Nature on planet Earth. So this book was series 32 you can go watch. Another book review I went over. I'm just making a point of background here when I read from this other book. Underground Bases and Tunnels. Series number 31, you can go watch my videos. There are more underground bases than you think, and there's more going on than just planning to keep the president alive in a nuclear war. Working from public documents and corporate records, this book digs below the surface of the government's super secret underground. 50 pages of photos, illustrations. So series 31, you can go watch this or do some research on your own. But apparently the powers that be are preparing for something. Meanwhile, dumping chemicals and biologicals from the sky, and even bringing us the 5G network in the gigahertz frequency range, the same size as the set blood cells in your body and smaller. And another book I went over that I think is important, series 28, is Report from Iron Mountain. So in 1968, they had some elite people come up with a plan to keep all the people under control because they thought they wouldn't have any nuclear wars anymore. So how would they motivate the people to be patriotic? So that the Americans would hate the Russians, and the Russians would hate the Americans, and the Americans would hate the Arabs, and the Arabs would hate the world. They kept this hate going on for thousands of years, and everybody fighting everybody. They call that patriotism. So if you were German during World War II, you were a patriotic German and went to war and died for your country. Meanwhile, if you were a patriotic Briton, you went to war and died for your country. And if you were an American, you were patriotic and went to war and died for your country, etc., etc., etc. These elites who rule our world, dumping the chemicals in the sky, creating the HAARP microwave transmission system, even sonic pulses off the ionosphere, 5G network, mesmerization, computers and TVs that watch us and program us. It's all in here. Environmental threats, terrorism threats. Report from Iron Mountain, Series 28. They got books planning how to keep us in line with all this deception. And talk about creating a super race or a new planet Earth. I got plenty of books from secret society organizations, The Limits to Growth. For the last 100 years, before World War I and World War II, they were obsessed with population. People they don't need. Think about that. People they don't want, need. These elites want to be able to walk in the forest or on a beach with nobody else around and not to be bothered by you or me. And the best way they can solve that problem is just depopulate the planet. They've done it before. It says here, a report from the Club of Rome project on the predicament of mankind, overpopulation. Series 27. Go watch my video. And more. The population bomb by another radical eugenicist who wants to depopulate the planet. Paul Ehrlich on the bottom there. Go look him up. Population control or race to oblivion. Look what it says. People believe this stuff. If the people running our world did not spend the gazillions of trillions, that's a big word, and a lot of money, on all this warring and deception and all the crazy things they're doing, can you even imagine what kind of planet we would have? We would all live like it was a Garden of Eden, like you see in some of those movies. Green, lush grass, palm trees, beautiful oak trees, lakes that look like mirrors with the sun reflecting off the water, glass, shiny buildings, fruit trees and vegetables. Oh my goodness, if they had only worked towards taking care of this planet, we would be living in that wonderland right now. But that's not the case. And with these people that are in charge bringing us this new age and new world order, it will never be the case. We won't be alive to see it. Climate Gate, the Marijuana Conspiracy, Project Bluebeam. Go get this book. Series number 22 I made. Project Bluebeam is apparently they're going to have big holographic images in the sky and maybe fake UFOs, and everybody's going to be fooled and believe the aliens are coming. Go get the books. Don't believe me? Go watch my videos. Letters on Occult Meditation. Series number... Did I write it on the back here? Curious what number it is. I think it's series 99. Letters on Occult Meditation. I have a chart here. I printed out a current chart. But I made videos on occult meditation. You meditate, you go into trance, and you communicate with the pixies. the angels, the Pleiadians, and all kinds of beings out there. What is out there? What is the Theophist Society? Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, Helenina Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, ISIS Unveiled. I made videos on all this stuff, and we'll continue to talk about these topics. Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, series number 17. They manufactured AIDS in a lab. Go look up Leonard Horowitz, watch some of his videos, get this big, thick, encyclopedia thick book. See all the evidence, the contracts, the names of the pharmaceutical companies, and the efforts they went through to bring to planet Earth a return of the Spanish flu, the Ebola plague, and AIDS, and so much more. Unbelievable. Series 17. Clouds of Secrecy. Leonard Cole talks about the same thing. The secret armies, weapons programs, dumping biologicals and viruses into the vents at these subway stations, parking a ship off the coast of California with a gigantic fan or the prevailing wind and dropping all those biological weapons into the air to see how it affects the population. Unbelievable. Series 18. I made video on this. The Army's germ warfare test over populated areas. 911 Synthetic Terror. I made videos on this book. All these tabs I have in here. This was series number 12 in the beginning of me making my videos. Unbelievable material. It involves the Israelis, the Mossad, and the high-level people we all know, who come from organizations like the Skull and Bones and other things, Council of Foreign Relations. Webster Griffin Tarpley, 911 Synthetic Terror, Series 12. Go watch the videos. Don't believe me. Get the book. Look up other stuff. So they're attacking us with 911, biological weapons in the sky, electromagnetic weapons, and also economic weapons, going around convincing kings and leaders of presidents of all over the world to borrow millions, billions, and then bankrupt the countries and have them be taken over by the United Nations and to become part of the global world order. And if you read this book and others, you'll find out that some presidents who didn't go along were assassinated. A lot of people were assassinated. This is a serious thing that's going on. And I've gone over several authors of books who talk about remote viewing. The government training people to go into trances, leave their bodies, spy on the energy, maybe even look back in time, forward in time. Series number 6. Go watch my videos. David Morehouse, I made one on his books. Jim Mars on remote viewing. I've got more to do. And because of all this craziness with, they say Planet Nibiru is coming, the destroyer, the black sun, carrying with it some beings of the returning Anunnaki, kind of matching the information on the Egyptian hieroglyphics. So a few years ago, I started taking pictures of the sun every day using filters. Because I thought if the sun is going to change, or if we're going to get a second sun, if this is what the heat sensor shows me, there's a tree near my finger, shows me that this is what the sun looks like normally with a certain filter. If there is another sun or something changes, because I have all these thousands of pictures, I would be able to recognize a change. See that little red black ball next to the bigger ball? So I have a huge baseline, thousands of these pictures of the sun using filters. And you can see here's some more here. And you can see the red orb and then the black spot and the one up here. The red orb, to me, appears to be the actual sun, but when the rays hit our atmosphere, what you see in the sky is that bright light you can't look into. With a filter and a camera, it comes out as a black light. So when you look up at the sky and you see the sun, that's what you're looking at, that black thing that's bright white. But with the special camera, you can see that it looks like a huge orb behind it. And if you look up here on this one here, sometimes there's a little tiny dot. You can see the dot above the black bright spot on the red orb up there. You can see that little white dot on this one below the sun, their little round dot. See the black dot? So if you get some filters and a camera and you start learning how to do it, you see the dot over to the side and the black dot right by the sun. Some of these black dots are camera reflections inside the camera, the eye that captures the picture. Anyways, I've spent years paying attention to the sun. I have thousands of these things. I started blowing some of them up. I thought I'd maybe start a little artwork with these pictures. And if that isn't enough, in 2005 I started another hobby. Because when I went down to Costa Rica on my big 0 birthday, sitting at a tiki bar in Jaco Beach in the Pacific Ocean, I was the only American sitting there drinking a Presidente beer. The other people were drinking liquor or beer or something. And they proceeded to tell me that they felt sorry for we Americans because we don't know what's going on in the world. And at that time, I was oblivious to the sky spraying of chemicals. That was 2005. That had been documented for 10 plus years prior to that. Isn't that amazing? If you don't know about it or nobody tells you, you don't even pay attention to something like this. That's not normal. I started taking these pictures. The pictures I'm showing you here are 2009. Orlando, Florida. And here's one of those things that happens with the camera sometimes. Look at that big orb back there. That's the sun shining off of some of those chemicals, creating almost a rainbow effect. And you can see the stuff they dump out kind of blows with the wind, not like a gaseous cloud. Cloud is vapor, doesn't blow like that. That's some kind of chemical that was dumped out of a plane, and the line is blowing with the breeze. So here I was in 2005 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, and since then, photographing and videoing and making videos of them dumping stuff out of the sky that blows in the breeze, paints our sky pasty white. Looks horrible sometimes, like Halloween spray. That is not a cloud. The sky is supposed to be pretty blue, or a sky with clouds, not the spray lines. If you tried to drive your car down the middle of Main Street, blowing out that much stuff, making the whole street and sidewalks all foggy and smelly, you'd be arrested. They'd make you stop it. Why aren't they making the aircraft people who are doing this intentionally, stop it. Line after line after line. I've made videos on this for years. Dumped chemicals. Dumped chemicals. No mistaking it. Dumped chemicals. Lots of dumped chemicals. But I don't have to show these pictures. You can go outside your house right now and probably see some of it for yourself. Take some pictures. Call your neighbors out into the street. Make people see it. Here's one of my pictures I take of the sun, and you can see the orb in the background. Get yourself a welder's mask or other type of filters, and you can take these pictures too. Some people would like people to believe that's Nibiru. Well, I can tell you it's been there all along. You can move it around if you move your camera around. That chemtrail, dumping chemicals and maybe biologicals, dried blood, etc., little tiny strands into the sky. A lot of people have tested this stuff, got samples and send it to laboratories. But people just don't want to believe. It's just, is mind control that effective? That people won't see it for what it is. You can see how it spreads apart. That big thick line started out as a thinner line, and as it, like if you throw a little fistful of oil on the water, starts out as a little blob, and then it just puts a sheen all over the water. If you're patient and watch it for a while, you can tell it's blowing in the breeze. Alright, that's my picture show. I've got boxes and boxes of these I've developed over the years. Just have a little evidence. Somebody says, I don't believe you. I got the pictures. I got the books. I've got the videos. I got my memories. I know they're doing it. Alright, back to the video. And beforehand, I apologize. I'm not going to get very much done. I can read a few pages. Go buy the book. Go look up Elena Freeland on the internet, YouTube. Watch some of her videos being interviewed by other people or giving lectures. But I'm going to start out with something called Carnicorm's Quest, page 232. Clifford Carnicom, C-A-R-N-I-C-O-M, Carnicom, is a conservative scientist, smarter guy than I, a scientist, willing to follow the evidence, through innumerable experiments, in order to confirm the direction the truth demands. A little bit of a note up here above what I just read. With the help of the microscope, these cinder-colored animals may be made out, cinder-colored, having 2 horns, round eyes, and a tail which is long, forked, with the extremities which are bent up, covered with hair. These worms are terrible to look at. Journal des Médecins, 1791. So when you peer into the microscopic world, they're terrible to look at. They look like some horrible creatures if you ever look at some of these things that crawl on your skin normally. So anyways, Clifford Carnicorum, he has a website, carnicorum.com. I highly recommend looking at it. We'll talk about it. But a conservative scientist willing to follow the evidence through innumerable experiments in order to confirm the direction the truth demands. Reasonable enough? His Vita, see Chapter 2, include having worked for the very Department of Defense, whose covert technology he has toiled for 2 decades to decode. So he used to work for the Department of Defense. I worked at a major aerospace company from 79 to 89, 10 years, near the Space Center in Florida. I have a degree in electronic technology, so I'm kind of an expert on RF, radio frequencies, and digital frequencies, and writing software, and fiber optics, amplifiers, filters, radio waves, microwaves. 10 years I worked in a lab on that stuff. He used to call me a miracle technician. He said there was nothing I couldn't fix. Always wondered if I'd have just stuck with that career, but after I was laid off with 1,000 other people during Christmas holiday, I was tired of working in a lab. We had to punch in a code to get into the vault where you worked, and all you knew was a little portion of the big picture. Building this or tuning that, or even going to military bases or even underground bunker areas, fixing computer systems. That's what I did. 10 years. Had a secret security clearance. Did have its fun things. I think over here I have an oscilloscope. You can see radio waves with this device. I'd like to get some more technical equipment like a spectrum analyzer. And I have an expensive microscope with a camera on it, but it doesn't do as well as I like. In other words, I like to get into science. That's how I got into this research, is I was planning on just researching alternate energies instead of nuclear power or gas or oil. And I was reading books by older scientists, the biographies, and I found out a lot of them were into psychic abilities when they were children, and they were getting the knowledge from the other side. Believe it or not. Learned about dowsing. See if I got my dowsing thing here. Learning how to use your own psychic abilities. Testing the quality of water with your mind. You can ask it a question. Should I jump off of a building and it counterclockwise? Would I like to have a great dinner out tonight? It goes clockwise. It interprets what and it does move your muscles. I don't do it consciously. It subconsciously does it. Anyways, I study everything. If you've been watching my videos, you see that. Full spectrum research. From angels to demons to secret societies, assassination of presidents, conspiracy theories, channeled material, Edgar Casey, Phoenix journals, books written by Jewish people, one in particular, Germany must perish. Every man, woman, and child, the entire German DNA must be eliminated from planet Earth in that video series 124. Go watch my video. Before World War II. How many people know that? The Cause of World Unrest, series 150. What, 1903? The Black Pope, 1896. The Black Pope, series 152. The Encyclopedia of Arts and Sciences, Illuminati Masonry, published in 1803. So apparently these insidious characters have been around for quite a while, and they're involved in what I'm about to read right now. So I had this opening to make what I'm about to say and read make much more sense. Seems we, the people, are under attack. Civilization as we know it is about to be destroyed. The freight train is coming. We better get off the tracks. We'll try to jump on board and stop the train. Looks like it's a runaway freight train. His first paper on Morgellons, that's those pictures I showed you of those little wormy things in people, some of them coming to the surface of the skin, causing all kinds of sores and lesions and things that just freak people out. They're all over their face and neck and arms. Stuff coming from these things they're dumping in the sky in electromagnetic frequencies and codes. You think not? I got a little thing to show in this video. His first paper on Morgellons appeared in August 2006. Though his experiments establishing a link to airborne samples had already been confirmed over and over again since the 1990s. Airborne samples of something being dumped intentionally has been confirmed over and over again since the 1990s. Remember I showed you books just a few minutes ago. They want to depopulate the planet. I made a lot of videos about the goings-on of these sinister characters, whether they're human or hybrids or even some kind of other types of beings. They've been here all along. They're planning for a bad day, and apparently that time is looming in our future, or happening right now. Carnicorm has been consistently stonewalled, denied, slandered, discounted by the U.S. government agencies, despite the 126 military-industrial complex visitors to his website who confirmed that the cold shoulder has not been because his work is inconsequential. So I did look at the list that's in this book. There's how many pages? 4 pages. Here's 2 I'll show you. These are the organizations who have visited his website and even made comments that his work is not inconsequential. United States Federal Emergency Management, the Federal Judiciary, the Mayo Clinic, National Computer Service Center, the Air National Guard, Salt Lake City, United States Navy Medical Department. All of these people are paying attention to his work. There's many more here. So it might behoove you and me to go on carnicorm.com, Clifford Carnicorm, and see what he has to say. Why Elena Freeland put it in this book. All these government agencies, and there's 2 more pages. And he's been under severe attack. All right. Representative Tom Udall, Senator Barbara Boxer, Dianna Feinstein, former President William Jefferson Clinton, former Secretary of Defense William Cohn, former Attorney General Janet Reno, former Secretary of the EPA Carol Browner, and former Secretary of the FFA Janet Garvel have all ignored his request for confirmation of the lab work. So he's just discovered that these things that they're dumping from the sky, these particles, part chemical and biological electromagnetic particles are getting in our body. And apparently there's an intention to change the human species. A plan. Oh my. Carnicorm's methods of approach to airborne and body fibers included chemical testing, column chiromography, almost like chemotherapy, graphicy, electrolysis, nihydrin analysis, visible light infrared spectroscopes analysis of peak absorbent wavelengths, and production of culture extracts. For a decade and a half, due to lack of funds, he could not afford to purchase a scanning electron microscope. He needed to confirm that the fibers dropping from the sky, popping out of people's bodies, were actually nanobiotechnology. Denial of funding, refusal to replicate experiments, control over labs, and many tricks of the trade are employed to lock freelance scientists out of the inner science circles privy to national security projects. In HAARP, the ultimate weapon of the conspiracy, Jerry's book I just showed you, Jerry Smith explains how the game is played, citing how scientific proof of the link between electromagnetic exposure and cancers might be marginalized. So they don't want you to worry and don't pay attention. Anybody who talks about them dumping stuff in the sky, even showing you pictures, is delusional. Anybody who says that they're sick and they got these little worms coming out of their skins and they can show you the worms in the sores, don't pay attention to them. They're delusional. If you think that the politics is rigged and they give you choices like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, don't pay attention to any of that conspiracy theory stuff. You're delusional. It's just normal. Choices like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It's an insult to the intelligence of we Americans. Every one of us should be insulted that they would have us go to vote for one of those two people, in my opinion. You know, make America great again. The president before him said, change, change. We're going to bring about change. We haven't seen any greatness or any change. All we see is President Donald Trump making an announcement that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which, if anybody knows anything about history, this is a biblical thing. World War I, World War II, so much more has been brought about to bring this about. Thousands of years, the Jews have been seething to get their kingdom back. They do have a spiritual belief, and not all Jews are into the dark side. They get into the Kabbalah, the occult, the demonology, fallen angels, spirits, communicating with gray aliens, reptilians. What is going on? What is blue bloodlines? Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Fritz Springmeier made videos on his book, and so many others. The Anunnaki, Nibiru. Secret Doctrine, Helena Blavatsky, Series 142. Pole Shift. The Uranta book, 137. Occult Theocracy, 49. The Encyclopedia of the Occult, 115. With good reason, scientists trust a result only after it has been independently replicated. Studies that had not been repeated were ignored by the NAS, the NRC, National Academy of Sciences, and the National Research Council, the EMF panel. So without funding for replication, Dr. Eugene Sobel's and Dr. Anthony Miller's work can be ignored. So if the government doesn't give you any funding, your work can't be verified, so then they can just ignore it. So what are the elite up to? Other professional players are in the game as well, such as the medical professionals who burden Morgellon sufferers with diagnoses such as delusional parasititis, despite the obvious visible physical effects and ease with which samples could be obtained for analysis. So any doctor, any hospital, any laboratory could just take some tweezers and scoop some of these worms off the surface of somebody's skin and provide us an analysis and an explanation. But they don't want to. There appears to be a plan. And it seems to be very sinister and almost unbelievable. But let me read on. Support groups and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, may have a gatekeeper agenda. A gatekeeper agenda. You think there's an agenda? Remember, after World War II, all the scientists in Germany were gathered together and taken to the United States in secret, Project Paperclip. And they continued their work. And they were into eugenics, geoengineering, creating some kind of superhuman, different kind of being, maybe an obedient slave, and selected bacterial viruses that can kill just certain groups of people. Or everybody who maybe doesn't have a red pill to take to protect themselves. So they could give these pills out to their own people and put the stuff in the water supply or in the air, or even an electromagnetic transmission to your system with the particles already inside, turn a switch and turn you off. You could start bleeding from the lungs and the throat and hemorrhaging all that blood out by the turn of a switch. With the 5G network, with all that electromagnetic energy, they can cook us from the inside out. And with the heavy metal particles inside of us, because of this guy spraying, I guess we would cook a little quicker. Carnicorn recommends monitoring information disseminated at conferences as well as contacts made there, such as he did after attending the first annual Morgellons Disease Medical Research Conference in Austin, Texas, March 29, 2008. And I'm not trying to do an audiobook here, just showing you some samples of what's in this book. Carnicorn has reported death threats, hacking, impersonation, fraud, libel, threats against his livelihood but to the FBI, and has had to terminate internet message boards. In 2001, he became aware of a phone tap, then of frequent visits to his website by the internal protocol router network. So they were scanning his website for whatever he knew all the time. The Defense Information System Agency had a number of NIPR net gateways protected and controlled by firewalls and other technologies. The activity increases February 28, 2001. On March 31, 2001, NIPI.mil visited Carnicorn's site for 10.5 hours to inspect 53 web pages of material. So the government wants to know what he's researching. And apparently they don't want the word out to the public or verify what he found about these Morgellons, insects, critters, some kind of thing growing apparently in all of us. Intentionally brought about. Gives you the creeps to think about there's something inside your body that doesn't belong there. Apparently you can go get some grape juice and swish it in your mouth and spit it into a flat plate and look at it and see. Look it up on the internet. Don't believe me. 7 operations. Before diving into the research, the reader is welcome to go to Carnicorn Institute website and follow along www.carnicorminstitute.org. Carnicorm, C-A-R-N-I-C-O-R-M NICOM Let's contextualize the biological operation of Morgellons in these 7 operations that over time Carnicorum has concluded geoengineering is up to. In the 2005 documentary Aerosol Crimes, he listed 5 operations. So I'm sure you can go on YouTube and look up Aerosol Crimes or Clifford Carnicorum or the Carnicorum Institute or Sky Spring or geoengineeringwatch.org by Dane Wigington. Richie from Boston, his videos. There's so many people, so many websites, so many books. This is not a joke. It's quite sinister as part of this new age. The New World Order, globalism, part of why Donald Trump named Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Those people are probably gloating and thinking they've won a battle that took them thousands of years. The repercussions from that will be huge. Already the Arab world is in uproar, from Turkey to Pakistan and everywhere else. Somebody just threw a match on the fire after it was drenched in kerosene. That's how big it is. Boom! Fire's gonna go. And they brought us all this terrorism and they're trying to disarm we the people. There is a plan. Jade Helm 15, putting troops and equipment all over the USA, testing computer software programs that's going to determine who dies and who lives, not humans. Maybe sending drones to your house, sent by a computer because of the stuff you read, meta tags, a book you purchased. Guns you may have in storage, people you know, people you talk to, something you said, monitoring you by your phone, your TV, your iPad. You got yourself a meta tag, a red dot instead of a yellow dot where you get imprisoned, or a green dot where you join the satanic new age. They know who's going to go along and be sinister and help kill everybody else, and they know the people who refuse. Who will stick with God, in my case being a Christian, Jesus. And the people who are Muslims, they know who is going to be a decent person with that religion, and those people who will turn traitor to those people. Like George Bush Sr. said, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order. And look up these things, I say. Don't believe me. So the Aerosol Crimes, Carnicorum has concluded geoengineering is up to. So why would they be dumping heavy metals into the sky? I need some water. And having an electromagnetic 5G microwave system come online. Before I read any more, I'm going to give you a little sample of what I'm talking about. All right. Copy paper. Pretty thin. Copy paper. If you measure it in microns, it's 100 microns wide. That's a reference point. Copy paper. 100 microns. So assume that 100 microns, that's what 100 microns looks like. If I were to take a microscope and blow up the edge of that paper, it would be that wide. 100 microns. Human cells, anywhere from 8 to 30, 40 microns. That's the piece I did not cut out. So your cells in your body, microns wide, can be 8 to 30, 40 on the right. There are different sizes of cells in your body. This is paper, 100 microns. And this compared to the paper, the cells are from 8 microns to 30 or 40. You might be saying, what's all this about? Okay, the 5G network. If you take the speed, 186,000 miles an hour, divided by the wavelength, it gives you the frequency. So 37 gigahertz, which is in the 5G network, the lower end of it actually, is 5 microns, the wavelength. That little distance here, when you consider paper is this thick, 100 microns, and the cells in your body, you can see there that the gigahertz wavelength there is half the size of the small cells and 1/4 size of the the bigger cells in your body. The frequency wave. And what does that mean? That means, if you remember your little FM radio when you went to the beach, has an antenna about this big. You pulled it up, stainless steel, extended it so you could get the signal while you're at the beach. Why was that antenna that big? Because that was the FM, frequency modulated, 13 to 15,000 kilohertz. And if you divide the frequency by the length, you'll get FM channel on 101.1 or 95.5. You've turned a radio on your FM radio before. So those lower frequencies, the wavelength is this long. So it has to match your antenna on your radio to fine-tune the signal. If it was the wrong size antenna, you'd hear all that crackling and you wouldn't be tuning in. So in other words, the antenna needs to match the wavelength to tune in so that the entire amount of energy can go into the radio, the signal. So when you have the frequencies in the gigahertz range being 5 microns, and you have it being half the size of your cell in your body, because it can be a multiple, it doesn't have to be the exact size, it could be half size. The induction will take place, which means the frequency that they transmit with the 5G network will be inducted into your cell. It'll be just like an antenna. That energy will go into your blood cell. It gets worse. So apparently, the stuff they dump in the sky that carries these little filaments, little tiny short teeny little antennas, they have this particle they dump in the sky that comes down to Earth, and you breathe it in or you drink it with water or food. If you eat some lettuce from your garden or an apple from a tree and it's got the particles on it, the little nanoparticles are going to go in your body. Anyways, the carriers are 12 to 20 microns wide, dumped in the sky, measured by Carnicorn and other people. And the carriers carry some tiny little filaments that are that wide, which are about 0.7 microns. And remember the frequency, this is the lower end of the 5G network. When you go into the higher gigahertz, this little 5 microns is going to go to 4 microns, 3 microns, 2 microns, 1 micron, and even smaller. The size of these filaments that they're pulling from people's skin that are inside of the carriers, particles dumped from the sky. These are the small little filaments that go in our bodies. The size here, 0.7 microns. Human hair is about 50 microns. Remember, this is paper, 200 microns. So human hair is about half. Some people have thick hair, thin hair. So whether it's thinner, 40, or even 80 microns, you can have thick hair. So this is hair. The biggest point I'm trying to make, this is the lower end of the 5G network, 5 microns. The filament that carries the little particles or dried blood to your body is 12 to 20 microns. You breathe it in, it wouldn't even be dust you can see. And the particles that do get in your body are 0.7 shorter than 1 micron, which is the same wavelength as you start moving up the dial on the gigahertz of the 5G network, communication network they plan on bringing us all over the world. So surely the HAARP transmitter, the 5G network, the Gwen towers, all those cell phone towers, and weirdly enough, me and my friend were in the car the other day, and right across the street from one another, one right over a school, were 2 of those cell phone towers, less than a block apart, with a dozen of those transmitters on each of those masts. Why would they need to have those 1 block apart? And there was houses around. I wouldn't even want to think about living there with these wavelengths that are shorter than my blood cells. And so all of this is within the frequency range. Like I said about the radio you take to the beach, the wavelength, 95.5 kilohertz when you dial it on your radio. If you do the math, the wavelength's about that long, or a multiple thereof. That's why your antenna is that long, and that's why you dial it to tune it in. It has a little capacitor that acts like changing the size of your antenna. So these frequencies they're about to bring us match the little particles that are being put in our body, and multiples of other components of cells and other things in our body, water molecules. So they can fine-tune to any of these things to create great distress to we people. I just thought I'd show you that little thing. I was curious when I'm reading about the 5G network and the filaments from Morgellons disease and all these other particles. I thought to myself, how big are blood cells? How thick is my hair? What's this frequency? If they're even close to each other, and me having an electronic technology degree, working at a major aerospace company on high technology projects with electronic technology equipment and tools, I know that if the wavelength matches anything, it's going to resonate and the energy is going to go into that thing. So I just wondered if they were the same, and as you just saw, they are the same, and I think it's by design, and I think it has something to do with some sinister purpose, part of the New Age, New World Order, globalism, depopulation, and so much more. Back to the book. Weather, environmental modification, aerosol crimes. The physical atmosphere has been changed. Electromagnetic operations, ionization of the upper atmosphere, is drawing charged particles into the lower atmosphere. Barium particles are being spread for more conductivity. Military operation weapons, biological operations, biotechnical delivery of biowarfare components via nanotech, planetary geophysical operations. Altered plasma means dramatic earth changes via the troposphere and the magnetosphere. All right, I want to read a little bit more from this book, then end this video. In the 2011 documentary, Cloud Cover, Carnicorn added a 6th operation, intelligence, namely sophisticated surveillance of everything and everyone on Earth for the sake of the C4 command control communications computers. A little later he added a 7th operation, detection of exotic propulsion systems, namely detection of what are commonly credited as UFOs. These operations extend to and beyond there was something else I wanted to mention that I mentioned earlier in this video. Apparently, I was watching another video, and I think William Mont, and he was talking about the 3B triangle UFOs being driven in military convoy near Area 51. So apparently, they have declassified some information about the government having some kind of craft like this, anti-gravity. So if they're planning on this new age, new world order, globalism, and they have all these technologies, and one of their biggest problems or concerns is they have too many people, unwanted people. And so they have to cull a lot of people from the planet for their own needs for this new futuristic reality. And all these pictures and books about UFOs and all that have the powers on the planet, had these technologies all along. Alright, back to the book. Just saying, stuff to think about. Fiber optics based C4 plus optical switching systems. So that's command control, communications, and computers. And they're hooking up brains to computers. And they're putting some kind of device, little tiny tubular things that grow inside of us. Nanoparticles called Morgellons, and they're trying to keep it all under wraps, as I've been reading. You don't have to be a scientist or Sherlock Holmes to put this together in your head. Virtual warfare, biochemical, biological warfare, chemical, electro control of human behavior, mind control. A lot of talk about that these days. A lot of it you can actually see if you pay attention to what you watch and the stuff around you in the news, knowing that these little tidbits of information go into our brain and develop our reasoning. Even our common sense can be fine-tuned. So that they say at the end times, down will be up, up will be down, evil will be good, good will be evil. And 2 plus 2 will be 5. And why will it be 5? Because they said so. And if you think otherwise with your own brain, then you're delusional. You want to see the chemicals up in the sky and be concerned about them? You're delusional. Those cell phone towers a block apart with dozens of transmitters on them and big thick cables, and you use your reasoning and understand microwave technology, and you put 2 and 2 together and you say, that's concerning. Well, then you're delusional. Electrical power transfer, plasma processing to break down nuclear waste, the components of which are being disposed of in the upper atmosphere. The term Morgellons originally referenced to an anomalous skin condition, but Carnicorum has extended it to include blood-borne vectors. Electrocyte, red blood cells. Degradation and variation appears to occur in proportion to the severity of the condition. Furthermore, various electrocyte modifications detected indicate that stem cell research should be incorporated without the investigation of the condition. From 1996 to 1999, Carnicorum conducted a microscopic air particle count study in New Mexico and determined that the count in 1999 was significantly higher than the counts in the preceding 3 years. So the microscopic air particle count in New Mexico determined that the count in 1999 was greater than the preceding 3 years. So the particle count of material in the sky is increasing due to increased spray activity overhead. So those little particles we're talking about, 5 microns, 7 microns, 0.7 microns, are coming down. You can't see them, and they're going in your body. And they can grow into little wiry worms inside our bodies. And apparently, according to this material, they can't hardly find anybody with pure blood free of these little things. And I keep bringing the spiritual demonic entities into this, and Hitler trying to use eugenics and all these other secret societies, desiring to destroy mankind the way we know it. Is this a cosmic battle? Is there some kind of effort here? Like with the Watchers mating with humans, the fallen angels, or the Anunnaki creating hybrid beings, and even the stories about Atlantis, they were creating hybrid beings. Are we all being transformed slowly? When they bring the 5G network on, can they just switch us on or off? Or change us and make these little things in our body grow quicker? Almost like some kind of horror movie. Along with fibers, he collected and analyzed cloud progression photographs, telephotos of aircraft, what appeared to be spray apparatus on the wings, and meteorological studies in arid environments that defy natural cloud formation, intuiting all the while that the fibers below were somehow connected with the aerosols being smeared over New Mexico skies above. In the 1998-1999 influenza season, the first days of the military's full-on aerosol push was categorized as epidemic. And I have a friend out there in Santa Fe, and he says when they're spraying, the emergency room is full of people with respiratory problems. And I've had it happen to me, and I'm reading in this book here that they spray so much it has a heavy petroleum smell to it. And when I would drive from Orlando to Tampa, I would notice, I could see on the horizon, they were spraying Tampa like crazy with the planes back and forth. And I could smell the petroleum smell. And then I would start gasping for air. This is my experience. And I would have to pull over to a pharmacy to get some throat lozenges or something to soothe my throat and relieve my breathing, because I would start gasping for air. This happened to me, and I've had other people tell me. There's plenty of videos on YouTube. You can look up the material. Get this book. Elena Freeland offers a lot of valuable information. I'm just touching on a couple pages and sharing some of my thoughts. Pneumonia, influenza mortality exceeded the threshold for 12 consecutive weeks beginning in January 24th. So the death rate increased. Through April 1999, peaked at 8.8% during the week ending March 13th, 1999. I highlighted a little sentence on the bottom here. The sixth operation would include synthetic telepathy technologies. Synthetic telepathy technologies, microwave frequencies, 5G network, 5 microns long, little particles in your body about the same size. Could they induce telepathy signals and controls into our bodies? It's the same size. The antenna size matches. They can adjust those frequencies in the 5G network just like you tune in your FM radio. So the sixth operation would include synthetic telepathy technologies, what is commonly known as the remote mind control, page 234, a topic so large as to merit another book. In his November 2-4 1999 report, Ground Samples, Microscopic Fibers Revealed, Karakorum documents the gray chemtrails in the winter of 1998, the white chemtrails in November 1999, over the eastern Oregon and Sacramento, California, and individual fibers measuring less than 1 micron. I talked about the size here. This is 0.7 microns compared to a sheet of paper that is 100 microns wide. And this here is a 37 gigahertz frequency wavelength. And that's the low end of the 5G network. It goes up to 100 gigahertz and 200 gigahertz. Certainly smaller than this in the micron range. So they were having all these white chemtrails over eastern Oregon, Sacramento, California. Individual fibers measuring less than 1 micron, with synthetic polymer fibers seemingly acting as carrier mechanisms. And it says here in the book, but for what? Why would they be putting these little filaments, these little fibers, 0.7 microns in our bodies, delivering them through the aerosol spraying? Including, he said in his research using microscopes and other equipment, carrying dried blood, which would be small little things too, carried on the particles that you can breathe or drink or eat in your body. We are being transformed, so it seems. Mother Nature is being messed with, so it seems. And psychologically and mentally we're being attacked, so it seems. The fibers exhibited extreme adhesiveness and elastic, with a tendency to form kinked wave-like forms that dissipate over time. After handling the fibers, people became ill. Karakorum advised caution. The fibers dropping over Sedona, Arizona on July 10, 1999 had a petrochemical odor, and in Oklahoma they were chiffon-like. In Sacramento in February 2000, a white powder and a granular clumps 200 microns wide fell. So if this is 100 microns, size of paper, the thickness, sheet of copy paper, this was 200, be twice as thick as copy paper. By May 7, 2000, Karakorum had identified the first biological component, freeze-dried, dissected red blood cells, readily visible after being subjected in immersion oil. The discovery of the red blood cells moved his studies in the direction of the U.S. military's sordid history of conducting biological and chemical warfare on its own citizens. Remember, I showed you Leonard Horowitz's book, AIDS and Ebola, and Leonard Cole's book, The Army's Germ Warfare Program. So could they just spread AIDS around to everybody using this particle distribution system with the aerosol spraying? The discovery of red blood cells moved his studies in the direction of the U.S. military's sordid history of conducting biological and chemical warfare on its own citizens. As a precaution, he declared, the source material for the images presented herein has been duplicated and distributed to numerous locations across the United States and is secured by various methods. The ramifications of the recent discovery establish significant cause for widespread involvement of the American people in this issue, and for subsequent criminal investigations and congressional hearings. So our government, controlled by the secret societies or into a satanic Luciferic cult religion, are poisoning we the people, and they have some kind of more nefarious plan for us, putting these little filaments and particles and chemicals and biological dried blood and who knows what else in our bodies, and bringing an electromagnetic transmission system online, 5G, which is supposed to be computerized, and God knows who's going to be controlling that beast brain computer. In the beginning of this video, I showed you they were hooking up actual brains to computers. How far will this go? What do you think? This is good stuff or bad stuff? I think it's insane. All right, having established a relationship between biologicals and the aerosols, dropping them, Carnicorn turned his inquiry toward nailing down the relationship between the airborne submicron fibers and the fibrous Morgellon structures emerging from people's bodies. Abriella and Martel described the symptoms of Morgellon sufferers as the discomforting sensation of insects crawling and biting and stinging their skin. This sensation results in skin lesions that can appear much like mild or severe cases of acne. The lesions can appear anywhere in the patient's body and quite often contain fiber-like strands of fibrous material. The fibers are the most perplexing visible features of Morgellons. Often, when an attempt is made to remove or extract the fiber, the material will resist and act to withdraw or move away from whatever instrument is being employed. So you try to get that little worm fiber that's poking out of your skin, and it withdraws like it's alive. It's like if you were trying to grab a spider or a bug in your house. It withdraws and tries to flee. All right, compare with acrylic fiber, 12 microns wide. Human hair is 5 to 6 microns wide. And nylon is 12 to 15 microns wide. So that's why I went through this little explanation of 100 microns, this width of copy paper. And the low level of the 5G network, 5 microns, 37 gigahertz. We need to see how this is all relative. And if they're in the same wavelength, the electromagnetic signal will conduct into that little fiber. The energy will be transferred. By the way, that's how your human body works too. Your cells suck in electrical charges. That's when your body digests the protein or the energy from the food you eat. It goes through your bloodstream, and the little cells, when it's the right key network, sucks it right in. It has to be keyed the right way, and if it's not recognized as a particle that's positive for your body, then the white blood cells will attack it as an enemy, and what they do is they attach to the particle that's unknown, and another white blood cell will pile on, and another one will pile on, and another one will pile on, and another one will pile on this unknown entity in your body, particle. And that's, after they pile on enough pieces, it starts to grow into a little mass, and that's called a tumor. So that's how cancer causes tumors. The cancer cell, which is recognized as unfriendly, the white blood cells hop on it and they try to cover it all up, and then it grows into tumors. So when you eat genetically modified food, those particles that are digested by your stomach that go through your body are not recognized as normal food because it's genetically modified. So the white blood cells will attack it, cause tumors, and so genetically modified food, if you look it up will cause tumors in humans, and they've experimented on rats and animals, and in fact it does. Because it's not recognized. It's not the way Mother Nature or God made it. And it looks to me like the powers that be are doing this intentionally. They're obsessed with depopulation, as you've seen earlier in this video. Carnicorn biological components identified May 11, 2000. Aberelli and Martel National Security Secrecy Morgellons victims across the United States and Europe, 2010. So go to Clifford Carnicom's website, and there's just a plethora of information there. Dane Wigington, Geoengineering Watch. Go watch Richie from Boston's videos. So many people are trying to expose this. Innumerable sufferers. Observation that the fibers resist and act to withdraw or move away like parasites would be crucial. The Morgellons condition is neither neurotic nor delusional parasitis nor a matchbox sign. It is real, entails real pain and suffering, and is connected to the chemtrail HAARP pump and dump. In fact, Morgellons is bioengineered and is being delivered by geoengineering. Comicorn's characterization of Morgellons, born years of research, is worth quoting at length. And it just goes on and on here. And you can go to his website. You can get this book. You can go watch some videos. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Mariko reporting.